everyone, welcome to movie review number 5. This one's about the 2017 sci-fi drama Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. This was a pretty wild movie, and I appreciated its eagerness to show off some pretty amazing and unique and creative alien biologies. Although it kind of seemed as if a lot of these aliens were just props, eye candy, superficial, meant to be shown for a split second as like a cool factor, but ultimately having no real meaning or significance to the plot. The movie begins with some visual exposition on the setting. The International Space Station has apparently become a meeting hub for countries as they gained access to space, and then it hosted the first aliens to come visit Earth. And over time, as more aliens came, the station grew, and it became a massive space city with millions of various alien travelers and migrants and such from all over the galaxy. Over hundreds of years, the International Space Station became Alpha, the titular city of 1,000 planets. This opening scene is where most of the coolest biology stuff happens. The montage of Alpha's development shows all of these different alien creatures coming up to some human embassy team and shaking their hand. The first aliens are some tall, amphibious-looking dudes with kind of human-like faces, or Earth-like faces, I suppose, with long limbs, and long fingers, and they had brightly colored patterns on their skin, kind of like a tiny poisonous tropical frog. The next aliens look like armored dwarves. You don't really see much of their actual body, because they kind of look like small versions of the aliens in the opening scenes of The Fifth Element. I should review The Fifth Element, that's a fun movie. Anyway, the third aliens that come up look like some kind of amorphous goo or liquid being held in a robotic body. And this is actually kind of a really neat concept. It makes me wonder what part of the goo or the liquid is alive and how it works together to create some kind of intelligent consciousness. Are they like a soup of neural cells with a hive mind type thing going on, and they just create robot bodies as a kind of exoskeleton? Or are they legitimately autonomous robots with some kind of like built-in coolant fluid or pressure system or whatever? Or are they like a jellyfish type bag with weirdly liquidy internal organs, and they can kind of conform to the shape of their container? If they're a soup of neural cells held in a giant bag, how does that bag of goo pick up and make tools? How does it mine ore out of a mountain and forge metal to make this robotic body? And if they evolved as a bag of cellular goop, like an amorphous blob in the first place, then why would they choose to make a humanoid body form with their robot exoskeletons? They could have made robotic bodies like spiders, or on tank treads or wheels or something. They could have made them tetrapods, or hovercraft, or anything else. I have a lot of questions about this, but they don't really get answered. The fifth aliens in this montage look like the aliens from District 9 merged with Predator. They're weird, aggressive-looking, bug-faced freaks, and it's awesome. These guys were my favorite kinds of aliens, because they were scary like an alien would be. They're unearthly in a terrifying way. They were alien enough to me to be at least somewhat plausible and believable, I suppose. The sixth alien species are literally jellyfish in vats, and these vats have thin little robotic arms and legs, so I guess that kind of rules out the jellyfish bag concept for those earlier robot people. Anyway, the next aliens, they're like giant, slimy, fishy salamander people who wear reverse dive suits filled with whatever fluid solution they live in back on their homeworld. This is a pretty neat idea too, because it's also really plausible. Our spacesuits, when we send people out into space, humans, they're filled with air, because we live in a solution of gas molecules, of air. It's what we evolved in. And so these salamander, fish-looking aliens evolved in a liquid solution, or in some kind of gaseous solution that was so dense it was opaque. The gaseous layer acted kind of like a thin fluid that they moved through on the ground. And because of that, because it's what was always around them as they evolved on their home planet, it's what they filled their spacesuits with. It's a totally biologically plausible feature, and that's always pretty cool to see in a movie, especially a wild, soft science fiction movie like this. Alright, so the story follows Major Valerian and Sergeant Laureline as they conduct police work in a kind of human-based galaxy task force. They're special agents of a human government with access to really ridiculously powerful technologies. The movie begins with Valerian and Laureline en route to a mission, where Valerian is sleeping and he has a dream. The dream depicts a planet getting destroyed as massive spaceships fall through the sky and land with giant nuclear explosions, and there's a doomed alien princess watching it happen. So he wakes up and he's kind of startled, and he learns about his mission, which is to recover some kind of matter converter technology that's being sold on a black market. During the operation, when they see the converter, he sees that it's an animal, and that the buyers are two individuals of the same alien species as the princess that was in his dream. Valerian and Laureline get the converter creature, and they return to Alpha, where the human military officer Commander Phillip, played by Clive Owen, tells them of a toxic zone in the center of Alpha. Like, oh, it's dangerous, can't go there, it's off limits. The three of them go to a meeting of all the major leaders on Alpha to discuss what to do about this toxic zone. And while this is going on, those aliens attack, and they incapacitate everyone, and they kidnap Commander Phillip. So Valerian pursues them as they retreat into the toxic zone, and Laureline follows when she loses radio contact with Valerian and gets worried. So she goes in, and she finds him, saves him, and they go deeper into the toxic zone. And it turns out that it's not really dangerous in the first place. But this isn't really explained further. Is it a false signal? A harmless but dangerous looking energy field? Who knows? The movie doesn't really explain it very well. They just kind of ignore it and move on. Anyway, they find the alien people deep in the toxic zone, and these are the survivors of the planetary destruction that Valerian saw in his dream. Apparently, it turns out that they're really quick learners, because they started out as a group of like 20 primitive agriculturalists, and within a brief period, they learned from the spaceship wreckage how to repair the ship, how to create that kind of metal and recreate the spaceships, which they used to get to and then infiltrate Alpha. And then once there, they learned even more, and they created their own spaceship with a fully immersive holographic environment projected onto the inside that recreated their destroyed world. They did this so quickly that they didn't even appear to age. It didn't take them years, it didn't take them months, it really did take them just weeks. That rate of learning and practical craftsmanship is hilariously impossible, and it totally cheapened the ending for me. I thought it was a lazy way to explain the ending, and that it was some clearly impossible achievement that makes it all work. It was kind of lame. Valerian and Laureline discover these aliens hanging out in the heart of Alpha, and they have Phillip held hostage. It's explained that their planet was destroyed because Phillip made a choice to use some previously unmentioned doomsday weapon. This doomsday weapon destroyed the enemy fleet that Commander Phillip was fighting. There was some war between the human government and a third-party alien species. And in this battle, he used the doomsday weapon, destroyed the enemy fleet, but it also destroyed the alien homeworld, these innocent little aliens whose planet just happened to be near this battle. The aliens that are now holding Commander Phillip hostage are the last of their kind. They explain that they need the converter to start their ship and to leave, to recreate their society and live again in peace. Valerian is convinced by Laureline to give them the converter. Commander Phillip is arrested, and yay, it's a happy ending. The movie had great visuals, and really fun concepts for various alien species. I remember there was a really cool scene about some kind of alien species that they grew a kind of elemental mineral crystal. It was kind of badass. It was a cool idea. But besides that, the plot was formulaic and predictable. I mean, Commander Phillip has some evil-looking weaponized robots that follow him around as a personal bodyguard, and when they're left to oversee some nice guy police forces, it's painfully obvious the robots are going to open fire on the police forces and mow everyone down. And lo and behold, that ends up happening. Surprise, surprise. The dream Valerian has was apparently the soul of the dying alien princess reaching out in a final spasm of spiritual energy. And I'm sorry, but that's just corny. The whole beginning of that dream scene was corny. It showed how happy the alien princess was as she sang and danced around on her beach planet and smiled at everyone, and they all sang and smiled back. But it was so saccharine. It was awkward, and there was kind of a dark satisfaction that it all got blown up a few moments later. Then there's an awkward alien trio that somehow has a bunch of information that all the main characters need. They seem like an ugly sideshow, like a producer's lame idea at comic relief that was forced in to add another angle to the story. It was like their only purpose was to provide a few cheap laughs and to provide a degree of resistance to the plot by dangling information in front of the protagonists and making them compromise and do stuff for it. I don't think it was explained very well how exactly they knew all the stuff that they did, as the trio only say that they deal in information. They just felt like a lazy plot device. The depiction of alien life in general has a very Star Wars-esque feel to it. There's a ton of variety, but very little of it has very much substance. A lot of it is just throwing as much concept art as you can into a flashy montage or a chase scene. There's no real discussion or comment on all the aliens living together, with all their alien germs and diseases and cultures and socio-political beliefs and behaviors. There's no mention of how that's dealt with, of what role it plays in people's lives. It's just implied that they all get along in peace and everything's just hunky-dory. It's a low-effort take on the aging, multi-species urban alien community trope, and I really feel like that trope can be done creatively, but it's just not in this movie. Overall, I'd give Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets a 75% for its depiction of biology, and a 65% for its plot. The movie started with big ambitions, and really beautiful cinematic exposition, but the story they crafted within this big sandbox was limited, predictable, and generic. I felt like the writers and director could have taken the plot in any number of creative, unique ways, but they seemed to think they put in enough creativity with the flashy exposition scenes in the beginning, and played it safe with the cookie-cutter plot. It didn't quite land with me, and the plot, plus the kind of wooden acting, especially from the actress who played Laureline, I was just a little disappointed. It's not a bad movie. I mean, it certainly has some visually stunning scenes, like the interdimensional gunfight in the beginning, and a ton of cool-looking aliens. It's just not a very good movie either.